Hello, friends, Kristin, Chelsea, Andrew. It's great to see everybody again. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. I've been enjoying our prep around it. So thank you so much for joining. I've had the privilege of moderating many panels for Brand Innovators. One of the reasons I was so excited about this, subject matter aside, was that a lot of our panels tend to bring in different brands from different industries, and we have really dynamic conversations around subjects. This is three people. This is a team from the same company who work side by side, day in and day out. And to see them together and to go deep on this is just a really great opportunity for everybody joining out there, participating in this conference. So thank you all for doing this. Welcome, welcome. Happy New Year. And I'll just dive right into it, Kristin, Chelsea, Andrew, if that's okay. As the last panel, EB's awesome segue, esports. It's just an incredibly exciting, dynamic, growing space. It's probably the fastest growing consumer category across any space. I did a little bit of research on it, and it's estimated to grow to 650 million users, maybe even more in 2022, and then another 30 million of just viewers, people there just to view the action that's taking place, spectators. So it's exciting, it's evolving, it's a complex landscape. Why don't we let you give us a little bit of the lay of the land? What's happening? What's new and exciting? What kind of trends are you seeing in 2022? Let's start there.
Oh boy, that was an awesome setup, Paul. So thank you for diving right in. We don't want to look back too much, but in order to understand where we are in 2022, we just have to mention a few things that have happened over the last 2 years. Not only as marketers and in industry folk are we seeing just how fast digital and social is changing. And as you would imagine, our core esports audience is sitting right in that millennial and Gen Z kind of realm. Our fans are early teenagers through early 30-year-olds. So they live and breathe everything digital and social. And when the pandemic hit, we were fortunate to just take a brief pause and be able to get back up and running for live events. We switched completely virtual, a heroic effort to be able to do that. It seems easier than it is to compete live around the world. That's why really no other sports properties do it outside of esports. We like the challenge, and we were able to get back up and running. And so as everyone has seen, the pandemic has just been a roller coaster. So as we approach 2022, we've had fans go through, and not just fans, but everyone go through fatigue of immersion online and digital overload. So as we approach 2022, we're very much looking at a hybrid of offerings with our esports properties. I know in a minute we'll get into more of what our esports properties look like and what that means, but we'll be bringing back in-person live events, but we will also still be offering digital-only experiences to watch esports live. So what does that mean for 2022? It just means a continuation of digital immersion evolving. So from Pick'em Live is one of our big properties in which you can do a little bit of live fantasy play as you're watching, to digital chats, whether it be on Discord or on our YouTube chat live. Just further ways to foster a community online is going to continue to expand. And then I think I'll throw it to Chelsea now to just talk a little bit of how we're evolving on the tech space too, in our filters and social world, which is a big focus for us in 2022 as well.
Yeah, thank you, Kristin. I think that what we saw when things moved to an online environment is there was an emphasis on needing to really bring things home in a digital way. We moved from being in-person events where it was very easy to have an intimate experience for our audience with our players and our league and our teams, to moving, of course, to an online environment where there, wasn't quite that same level of intimacy and excitement surrounding it. So we had to innovate quickly as to how we could capture that same sense of, like I said, intimate feeling with our brand. And one of the ways with which we've done that is by leveraging new media in AR filters. And so, for the past few seasons, we have been creating AR filter games, creating AR filter experiences, as well as, leveraging influencers and our talent to create just general AR filter challenges or, activations on social that our audience can participate in. And that really feels as though, despite being in more of an online environment, it really breaks down that wall that was, we were otherwise experiencing in this remote space, in having things happening, no longer in that intimate setting where everyone's congregating around a live event. So we've had a lot of great success with using said filters across their social platforms. We've worked with some fantastic vendors that have been really innovative, not only in the way that the filters are created, but also the strategy with which we deploy them, leveraging influencer and personalities. It's something that we're really looking forward to continuing and in fact supercharging in 2022, and hopefully many of you will see and enjoy as well across our social platforms.
Let me ask you a question about that, Chelsea, before we keep going. I'm sure Andrew wants to add some in too, but it's a super interesting point when you talk about this idea of intimacy. And when we're not going to do any COVID stuff today, right? We're all looking forward, but we know that there was this separation, and brands and consumers and human beings were struggling to be together. And it sounds like you have used content and social media to bridge that physical gap and to maintain some of that intimacy. Just tell us like something you've learned over the past year of doing that. Just share a little bit of your wisdom and what you've taken away.
Absolutely. I don't think that I could have said it better myself. The importance of social and content to, really reach the homes and come into the homes of our fan base, whereas previously they came into our home. I cannot emphasize how important that is as part of the overall experience. And I think that's something we've learned is, traditional methods of social and content marketing, you need to iterate on them in this space because, now more than ever, so much is happening online. And so the competition is robust in terms of reaching that marketplace and having a broad digital footprint. You're competing against not only every other, every other piece of content, as the adage goes, online, but now also every other brand that's essentially moved into this space. So for us, this is one of the reasons why we really push not only into leveraging tech in terms of being able to think of new ways that we could reach and captivate and engage audience in this new environment, but we also, of course, have coupled a lot of those activations with influencer personalities. Because the other side to the coin that was, I suppose, lost, for lack of a better term, when we moved out of in-person events was the communal feel. In esports and gaming broadly, a lot of it happens in an online environment already. A lot of it happens, behind computer screens. However, one of the great things about our leagues is that they've provided essentially, a water cooler event or a communal space for our fans and for, players of the game to be able to congregate. And that was a bit lost when we moved to that online environment. So leveraging influencers and personalities that our fans are very familiar with and that our fans, already feel connected with outside of our leagues, just in their general consumption, having them become a part of the fold in the way that we promote these leagues and in the way that we try to create content and social activations has really, paid dividends in terms of the way we've been able to catapult reach, as well as, the way that we've been able to garner more brand sentiment that, we're essentially cool by association. It's like I always say, being a brand on social platforms, the hardest part about championing that is being a brand on social platforms. So you really need to attach yourself to those personalities now more than ever to set yourself apart. And that's just what we've done and what we're looking to continue to do in an even bigger way this season.
That's awesome. That's great. And going back to the content piece that you mentioned, Andrew, you spend all your time thinking about content on behalf of Blizzard, Activision. What do you think? What have you learned over this last year with esports, and what trends are you seeing in terms of content creation and deployment to drive that intimacy, to drive that engagement?
Yeah, I know you mentioned not to talk about COVID, but it feels almost impossible, especially right now. Every time we think we're getting close to, okay, we'll get back to the norm that Chelsea's referencing. We're going to have our events again. We'll have those community moments and those community beats again. something like Omicron hits and we lose that opportunity. And so now it feels like originally back in 2020, when we had to transition online, the innovations were around, okay, how do we just do this? How do we just get online? How do we stay online and still keep our fans engaged? Now it's almost, as much as we wanted to say like, okay, yes, now we're transitioning back to normal as it was. Now we have to figure out how to actually innovate within our online situation, our COVID space in a way, and maintain that intimacy. I think one thing I've seen, I feel like across many different sectors, and esports maybe is a little luckier than others, to Chelsea's point, because we are very online based already, is I'm feeling like there's a Zoom fatigue, there's a web fatigue from content. And so it's really important that for us this year, we're figuring out ways to push past that and to create safe moments and safe experiences, virtual or in person, where we can start to get that intimacy back again, even if the world isn't quite back to the normal that we knew prior to all this going on.
Yeah, and that's a perfect jump to the next topic, which is about league play. And there is an inherent intimacy in league play because it gives you your tribe, it gives you your team, it gives you something to root for, something bigger than yourself. And we know that league play, and you all come from sports backgrounds, the power of team, the power of leagues, it's undeniable. We know it's a big growth driver in this industry. And we also know among Activision Blizzard's most valuable assets in a really, really rich and enviable dynamic portfolio are your leagues. This team here that we're sitting with, you look after the brands, you look after the marketing, you look after the content, you look after the social of the company's two flagship leagues, Call of Duty and Overwatch. So let's talk about those. Let's start with Call of Duty, talk a little bit about that, and then we'll switch over to Overwatch. Chelsea, should we cue this video here and show this video for Call of Duty?
Absolutely, let's cue it up.
There is a status reserved for a select few throughout history. For those remembered for more than just a name, it's a title even kings die in vain for.
Out of the dust, a legend is born. Born for the game, born for the throne.
Time gives us all one simple choice. You can be forgotten or become immortal.
You think he's done now? You think he's gonna stop here? You think you can stop a BZ? Oh my God!
Let's go!
You have to get through Skies! His name is Cesar Skies Bueno, and he chose to invest in his game.
I'm legendary.
Kleenex has just been straight up the best player in the world. Why has no one killed him?
To be remembered is not enough, because anything less than legendary is failure.
Accuracy, though, they line up! They line up for accuracy and he wins it! Are you kidding? Accuracy with thighs!
Notorious, victorious, I'm legendary. I'm taking the crown, that's why I came. I was born ready, I'm legendary.
Whew, I feel hyped.
All the chills. I think Andrew has
awesome.
to.
So, Kristin, give us a little bit. Give us some overview of of the league with Call of Duty. Clearly action, clearly sports, clearly high energy, and it's yeah, you're virtual, but this is about as lean in experience as you get.
100%, all the hype. And I said, I'm going to throw this one to Andrew because Andrew started working on Call of Duty League back when it was known as the Call of Duty World League with our property MLG. So he gets to intro this league.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a really crazy ride watching Call of Duty over these past years. And I even jumped in midstream. By the time I started attending and covering Call of Duty events back in 2016, I felt like I was behind already. It had such a rich history in competitive Call of Duty already. And one of the things we were tasked with when we became the Call of Duty League and transitioned to this franchise model was figuring out the best way to honor that history and innovate with something new, give our fans something new to still be excited about and to step into this new world of competitive Call of Duty esports in this franchise model. And I think the main reason why I picked that video to showcase is I feel like it's a really good way to see that, to your point, it's not just the stereotype of kids in a bedroom. Even if that's what may be happening during COVID, that's not what's really going on. A lot of the matches that you saw there took place online, and you would not have known it from the action. A lot of our teams figured out ways to get their teams together in one space safely. So even though the match was online, their opponent was not with them, they were together. They still had that energy and were filming it and were able to feed off that hype and that excitement. And I think it just really shows how it like you said, it feels like sports. It is sports, and our players are serious, they're competitive, they're superstars, and overall just each league, and this we'll definitely get into a bit more when we see the Overwatch League video that we sent over to showcase. But each league has its own needs and its own tone and its own community that are very entrenched in that tone. And so that was what I was hoping to showcase with that video.
What sorts of trends, team, do you see happening in league play? Again, if we believe that league play is one of the growth drivers of this industry going forward, are there some things that we can look at, double click on, that we see driving that that growth around leagues themselves?
Yeah, I think it's important to take one quick step back for perhaps some team members in the audience that may be less familiar with our approach to esports. So Activision Blizzard chose this unique positioning of what Paul is referring to as league play, in which we created 2 professional esports leagues that are a franchise model, as Andrew mentioned. What that means is North America audiences are very used to watching franchise models in sports. So in the NFL, for example, pains me to say this because I am a Ravens and Jets fan, but if you look at the New England Patriots, owned by the Kraft family also owns or previously did one of our esports teams in Boston. And so we developed it off the same model in which we work at the league office, and we work with 20 teams on the Overwatch League side around the entire world, between Asia, EU, Canada, and the US. And then we have 12 teams on the Call of Duty League side across North America and the EU. And they are all rooted in city-based structures. And that is what makes us particularly unique. We work on our marketing efforts and our content efforts on the global level, but we have teams rooted in these cities, and they're able to borrow the equity of what it means to be a Boston fan, what it means to be a Shanghai fan, or a San Francisco fan. And so while you're rooting for your favorite players or your favorite team, you're joined naturally by this community that, once when Boston plays New York, we know what that means across the wider array of sports. And so that is our unique positioning. No other esports leagues has taken that positioning. It's much more of a tournament, global based position. So that's what makes us unique, and also gives us the opportunity to host some fun in-person events as well as the online ones, but in-person events where there is that home field advantage, if you will, on the stage of hearing that hometown audience root and cheer for their teams.
That's great. And what kind of impact do you think that league play in general has had on consumer behavior, consumption of the content itself? Has league play driven like more content consumption, more purchasing, more interaction?
I can jump in here too. I think that, one of the benefits of league play and having this city-based model is going back to that notion of driving community building and providing, sort of a sense of like-minded individuals who have passions for these competitive games to be able to congregate. We see teams that have multiple different fan groups and franchises that have independently cropped up around them, just of, avid players or, avid consumers of the competition wanting to congregate and, cheer for their team together. We have seen, especially at our, events around champs for the Call of Duty League or grand finals for the Overwatch League, individuals showing up in record numbers with jerseys representing their favorite franchise, even if their favorite franchise isn't playing. I think that the opportunity for, just having that sort of regional fandom and being able to identify as, hey, I'm a fan of, I'm a Dallas fan and so are you, or I'm an Atlanta fan and so are you. It's like, it provides a certain level of clout, which of course we all know in this digital landscape. And, as we drive more and more into new media, clout chasing is all the rage. And, it provides just that level of community, that level of clout for folks to be able to, find a commonality in their fandom. And of course, with that, as marketers, there's all sorts of purchasing power that follows thereafter of people wanting to, be able to signal their identification with being a fan of a specific team and signal that they're a part of this, sort of tribe. And so we've certainly seen that on the league side of things, both for Call of Duty and the Overwatch League. Kristin or Andrew, I'm not sure if you wanted to add on there.
Yeah, I was going to add that, especially when you look back to esports' history, it was very much so for a number of years, kind of the wild, wild west. There were organizations, of course, and there are endemic esports organizations that are a part of our leagues now, which is amazing to have them alongside the craft family sort of groups from other sports. But it wasn't if you had a favorite player, your favorite org was whichever org that player was on. You followed them around, you kind of moved with them. And folks, especially in Call of Duty competitive, people would change teams all the time. It happened. We still see it now. But obviously now that we have this city-based model, fans had an opportunity to jump in with the cities they resonated with, whether it's the one that they live in, the one that they grew up in. And we're seeing a lot less of the following their favorite player around. Obviously, they still have their favorites, but I'm seeing firsthand people still saying things like, I love Scump, but I'm going to continue to root for New York. Sorry, and that wasn't the case previously in esports. And I think it's something that this transition to franchising really, really afforded us.
I want everybody to get to see Overwatch, but before we do that, a question, because this has come up in each of the things that the three of you have last spoken about, is this idea of tribism, localism, of New York versus Boston versus San Francisco, Shanghai. We have a lot of global marketers with us today, and as global marketers, we think about the idea of localization. We think about the idea of cultural relevance. We think about the idea of making sure that language and tone and design appeals. How are you approaching that as a absolutely intimate but global brand, making that experience relevant for your teams, for the markets that you serve? How are you thinking about that from a content, from a experience standpoint?
Yeah, great question, because I feel like it's what we focus on every single day. So because of our format, we're very uniquely situated in the fact that our league office is based in North America, but we have regional counterparts across Activision Blizzard that we partner with on the daily. So whether they're in our Europe office or our Korea office or our China office, that know the region. And then on top of that, that is the beauty of having the franchise model, is we have these partners, again, 20 on the Overwatch League side and 12 on the Call of Duty League side, that intimately know their region and their city. So if you think about all the people working together, and then you layer on that of working, for example, very closely with YouTube for bringing our games to life in North America, or Bilibili bringing our games to life in China, that intimately also know how to best tailor content. we're just situated well in the sense that we think about a global strategy, so it's all connected, but because we talk with our counterparts on the daily, we're then able to not only localize, but really tailor the content, the tone, the conversation. In fact, that's really what sparked a lot of our revamp in our tone for the Overwatch League. We were pushing the envelope a bit more in Asia and developing content that was further into anime and just had this tone, which you'll see shortly, which is almost cartoon-like, but in a very incredible, professional, fun way. And it was doing so well there that we started to adapt it more across our entire broadcast. And now that is our tone for everything that we do on the content side and marketing side. So it's just that constant communication with all these incredible partners that we have across the world that we're able to not only have global things, because some things translate globally really well. Like you said, tribalism, rooting for community, that hype you saw in the Call of Duty League video of just that excitement of play, that works in every region and in every language. But there are tweaks that we make in different languages. We're of course on different social media platforms in Asia than we are in North America. So there's different approaches, and we do that because we have team members embedded in all of those areas that intimately know the fan base and know the community of that region.
Yeah, and if I can piggyback on this, I think that it's critically important to call out that when we talk about localization, it's not only, it's not a simple translation. We have experimented with taking content from our counterparts in China and putting it on North American platforms, and it has fallen flat. Likewise, we have experimented with putting North American content on, platforms that our counterparts in China program to, and it has underperformed. And the reason being is, of course, there's nuance in culture. What's funny here, not funny there. There's all sorts of ways that, we need to, when we say localize, it's really a comprehensive and holistic approach to revamping content or to creating new content that is specifically tailored not only to the audience culturally, but also to the platforms that we're programming to, because especially in the example of North America and China, they are entirely different social platforms that have entirely different algorithms that favor entirely different types of content and multimedia. So that's something that we are uber mindful of every time that we share content broadly, and every time that we look to creating and kicking off a global campaign. Just a really important note there that I wanted to double down on.
That's good. No, it's great. And we're going to go deep into the market. Should we take a look? Should we give everybody a little look-see at Overwatch?
Let's do it.
Do it.
It's that time of year again. Say goodbye to Mom and Dad. And Carl, of course. Meet all your new dorm mates. And hit the books. Between solving the world's issues, late night study marathons, and heck, maybe sneaking in a little hacky sack sesh on the quad. When can you find time for the Overwatch League playoffs? We've got you. Overwatch League Perks' new 3 for 3 deal is here to save the day. When you watch your favorite Overwatch League teams fight their way through the playoffs with your linked Battle.net account, you'll earn League tokens and 3 new Overwatch League skins for every 3 hours watched. 3 hours, 3 new skins, up to 9 new skins. With all these new Overwatch League skins, you're guaranteed to be the coolest kid on campus. Just look at these kids. They're absolutely dripping with swagger. All right, we get it. You're a young group of students having fun at college. Okay, where did you all get the confetti? You do know someone has to clean that up, right? No, no, stop that. Stop it right now. Cut it out. Overwatch League Perks. They make everything better. Wait, what are you guys doing now? That isn't a thing you even do at college. Like, oh yeah, hey, that chemistry final was really tough. Let's go wave some smoke around. What if people are paying thousands of dollars every year for this? What is?
And what's interesting to me, oh, sorry.
There's so much to unpack there.
There is, yeah. And the reason why I wanted to go with those two videos. I just feel like they're so uniquely situated to achieve the same thing. They're both getting our fan base excited about watching our matches, but they're just such uniquely different ways to do it. One is obviously channeling the drama, channeling the excitement, the energy. It's dark, it's brooding, it's tough looking. And the other one is it caters very much to the difference with our Overwatch League community, which is that it's a lighter community. To Kristin's point, we really are making a concerted effort to what we've deemed a while ago, leaning into the fun and having fun with our fans. And this is the type of content our fans would be creating. So it's the type of content our league should be creating. And so, yeah, just two very uniquely different videos, both essentially trying to achieve the same thing.
And just to provide some added context there, that video is dripping with memes that are inside jokes among our community on the Overwatch League. I know everybody's like, why is there a bunch of stock footage all over this? It's an inside joke. Who's Carl? It's an inside joke. You know, there's just so much that is speaking directly to that community that anyone who is, you know, not necessarily a part of the competitive side of it yet, or a fan of the game may or may not understand. It's just very tailored to them specifically, which was very intentional.
And yet, if you're an Overwatch fan, maybe learning about the league for the first time and realizing you can get tokens, it's still informative and it still helps get that message across that, oh, I can watch the playoffs and I'll get league tokens that I can use for skins. Awesome. I don't need to know much about the league to understand that if I play the game, especially. And yeah, but to Chelsea's point, is really getting in on those the community memes there.
Right. And look, I think the word, you know, we've heard this word before today. There's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of art that comes with effective consumer marketing in this space. It obviously combines a deep understanding of sports and sports marketing fundamentals. And I'm sure anybody who clicks on your LinkedIn profiles will see there, all of you have a really, really deep pedigree in sports. But it also requires, you know, fundamentals around social digital content with a laser focus on this millennial Gen Z mindset, and maybe even more, right? And we know it goes up and down. Everybody is playing esports. So how are you marketing the brands? How are you marketing the leagues to your consumers? What are some of the tricks of the trade that you see most effective?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, Paul, fandom is fandom. It's universal. That's why a lot of us come from a traditional sports and entertainment background. We have a lot of fantastic colleagues that are also endemic to the esports space and gaming. It's that combination that really makes us just primed to be able to understand how to market and talk with our fans. So it is very much tapping into, as we've heard all along, the community, the tribalism, the fandom, the rooting for something that's bigger than yourself. But a big shift in our marketing approach going into 2022 is really leaning, if you haven't been able to tell, into content. Everything that we're doing in the content and the influencer space, as Chelsea alluded to, that is the forefront of our marketing strategy. It's not only where the entire industry is headed, it is clearly where our audience lives and breathes on digital and social. So it makes the most sense for us. What is changing, though, is what Chelsea also mentioned, is it used to be a little bit more of a one-way, even a two-way dialogue. And as tech is innovating on the social and digital side, it's now becoming a full live conversation. So, you know, we still have the emphasis on our live events and driving marketing to have our fans watch events live. But we've shifted a lot of our focus and efforts into thinking how we are engaging with our fan base outside of those live events. So our content and social strategy is going to be pointing a lot more to non-live occurrences and non-live match days of what's happening on the Monday and what are we doing that's leaning into not only our league, but into culture. And you mentioned that, just how important it is to be culturally relevant, of being part of the conversation that could be wildly outside of esports. And I'll throw in my prediction of 2022 while I'm at it, and then pass the baton. But that is where marketing is shifting for esports in general. It's the collision between esports, gaming, fashion, entertainment, music, docuseries, documentaries. You're seeing that across the industry. it is how we are just intertwining all of that entertainment, because that is what Gen Z wants to see. They want it all together. They want all of their favorite things just kind of merging. And that's what we're looking to shift. Is how we, of course, focus on competition. That's the core of our product, but how we are entertaining our fan base more broadly. And again, the focus really is on content and influencer marketing as the spotlight.
So two questions then, and because I'm cognizant of time and I want to get to the advertiser side of it if we can. One for Chelsea, and then one for Andrew. So Chelsea, talk a little bit more about the influencers. I think we really saw them some of them in the first video we saw. So I'd love to just get you just a minute or so on your perspective on the role of influencers specific to this industry. And then Andrew, one of the things that you brought us up to speed on, you brought me up to speed on, was your move to YouTube as your primary platform. I think that's super interesting. So if you could just share that for a minute. Let's go Chelsea, then Andrew, and then we'll go to advertisers.
Sure. So regarding influencers, yes, you saw some in the first video, but the benefit of this league model that we have and the players that we've signed is that we essentially have some influencers on our rosters. So the influencers that we're actually working with beyond the talent that's on our rosters are more community-based. Those are the ones that we're more focused on expanding content around, because we already do a great job working with a lot of the talent we have signed to teams. So what I mean by that is, we live on digital platforms. We live on YouTube specifically as our primary platform. Twitter is also, an #1 watering hole for our community. And of course, where a lot of influencers have that more intimate level of conversation. So we leverage influencers in a couple ways. First, it's most important for us to work with these individuals because they reach the audience that both we already reach and we become cool by association, but more than that, they also reach a growth audience for us. As Andrew alluded to, there's fans of our competitive leagues, there's fans of the competitive gaming and esports, but there's also a lot of fans of just the games themselves that have not yet converted to being fans of the leagues. We see that as probably our most warm market to be able to convert those individuals down the funnel and actually, hit subscribe, hit follow, and watch our broadcasts. And the way with which we're planning on reaching them, and we've been working on reaching them in a bigger way, is by leveraging influencers. By definition, influencers are individuals that have built their brand, that have built their audience on the platform that they, have been programming to for however long they've been doing it, to the extent with which they have influence over that audience. And so we are looking to leverage that influence to be able to drive conversion against our brand. And what we found is the best way to do that is not by simply handing a brief, as traditional influencer marketing often does, but instead working in a really collaborative way. On the CDL side, we actually have a roster of individuals that are essentially a part of our CDL ambassador program. They work with us in a season-long capacity. We tested this first last season and had great success, both in terms of the ROI against it, as well as the sentiment from the influencers themselves and their satisfaction in working with us. And it's something we're looking to replicate in 2022, where we work with them directly to have them tell us how best to reach their audience. And again, this goes back to what you all have been hearing consistently throughout this panel, which is, as a brand on social and on digital platforms looking to drive audience growth, you need to be humble in your approach and understand that you don't know how to reach these individuals best. And as it pertains to Gen Z and millennial audiences, you need to listen to them. You need to follow them and the conversations that they're already having, and you need to take cues from their favorite personalities in the space to be able to effectively shape and drive your messaging and content and your deployment of strategy across these platforms. And that's exactly the way with which we use influencers on the esports side, again, to drive that growth and conversion among the gaming audience that they've successfully converted as fans of theirs, but we have not yet.
Yeah, and regarding that transition to YouTube, it even came up in the esports component of the previous panel towards the end. You talk about esports and a lot of people think about Twitch, and that's where we were. That's where Overwatch League started when it emerged 5 seasons ago. It's where competitive Call of Duty lived for a long time. And in early 2020, we made the transition to YouTube as our primary broadcast partner. And it's created a change in our approach to everything. YouTube existed in our space. Obviously, fans love YouTube. YouTube content is obviously very prominent, regardless of where live matches are taking place. But now having them all in one place really forced us to think about a holistic approach to our league and our platform being YouTube. And one of the ways that as we iterated on that last year, we landed on was we had the realization that, to Kristin's point of live versus content, a huge thing that our fans like doing is engaging. That's the reason why influencers gain this much influence, because when they're streaming, they're talking, they're engaging, they're building their community that way. And with our live shows, even when we were on Twitch, we don't really have that opportunity to engage. It's, you know, where our casters are casting a match, they're not watching a chat. Same with our analysts. And so we experimented with a live show last year on YouTube where it wasn't matches, it was two of our commentators talking about Call of Duty, and the community absolutely loved it. They loved finally having an opportunity to engage with our talent in real time, the way they do their favorite influencers. And it's just the kind of thing that we really felt like the transition to YouTube made us think like that, and made us try to come up with a piece of content that does tap into our audience in that way. And I think that that particular show did it very effectively.